This summer will prove to be one of the most important transfer windows in Tottenham Hotspur's recent history as Big Ange Postecoglou looks to add the final pieces of the puzzle for a monster second season in charge at White Hart Lane. A key focus, the midfield, especially the pivotal number 6 role, essential for Ange's system to thrive. Unlike traditional defensive midfield roles exemplified by players like N'Golo Kante, who mastered the ball-winning destroyer role, Sergio Busquets, who is one of the best deep-lying playmakers in world football, and Douglas Luiz, who was more of a regista, Tottenham's system requires a versatile powerhouse who can anchor our midfield, protect our defense from the vulnerabilities of the system, and catalyze our attacks. Now, despite a talented roster, our current options in midfield all have certain weaknesses to their game that make them probably unfit, at least unless they are at their very, very best, of which this season they have all struggled to be. With Piere Emile Hojbjerg eyeing a move for more regular first-team football abroad this summer, Yves Bissouma's early season form deserting him to the point where he was even dropped by his international team, Mali, and Rodrigo Bentancur struggling to adapt after battling back from a series of injuries, work behind the scenes is going on to identify a solution. Even Fabrizio Romano has confirmed the midfield position is a priority when he recently revealed, "I see Tottenham signing an important midfielder in the summer, a really important one. I think they want to add something special in that position." There is no perfect solution for what we need. Well, maybe there's one. But in reality, it's a very specific set of ingredients that are clear to identify, just hard to find. Pace and stamina are a must to cover the gaps that are exposed in transition by our forward-thinking and progressive system. An ability to read the game well, communicate with his teammates, work under pressure, and essentially footballing IQ is also a critical component. Defensively, we're looking for someone who is fearless in the tackle, with controlled aggression, who can sit in front of the back four and protect them in transition. Press resistance through ball carrying and a complete passing arrangement are also necessary, as well as strength in aerial duels to help cover the long ball counter-attacks that we struggle with at present, plus, of course, the immense pressure we face from set pieces. There are a variety of styles and nuances and context to consider when trying to identify the midfielder that's going to anchor our midfield next season, transform our play, and ignite our ambitions. Now, not every player is perfect. Some of the players I'm about to present to you are probably unrealistic. Some of them are slightly more risky and players with a lot of potential. But we're going to go through now my top 10 candidates that Tottenham should be considering for the monster number 6 role this summer. If you're new to the channel, guys, then please hit the subscribe button. If you enjoy the content, hit the like button. Definitely drop a comment. Let me know if I have missed anyone off of my list that was on yours. I could make 3 lists. There are so many candidates out there, but the specific ones that I wanted to talk about today are going to start right now. First up is Paris Saint-Germain's Uruguayan powerhouse midfielder, Manuel Ugarte. Known for his defensive ruthlessness, this guy is a disruptor. He can win the ball back from deep, and with his ability to read the game, sharp tackling, keen ability to intercept the ball and to create attacks from deep, this guy would be unbelievable in the Premier League. With a robust physical presence and unmatched stamina, this guy covers vast stretches of the field and is always in the right place at the right time to do the job that is asked of him. But Ugarte isn't just a defender-in-chief. He is a master of distribution. Spreading from deep, his precise, insightful passes catalyze attacks. His versatility shines, showcasing his ability to adapt to a variety of roles, something that Ange would find a lot of value in. But for me, his true strengths and core value is found in sitting in front of the back four, neutralizing threats, and being that defensive ball-winning master that we know him to be. Still at a young age, the potential for Ugarte is obscene. He's only been at Paris for 1 year and is already considered one of the elite midfielders in his position, in his style in world football. With 4 years left on his contract and valued at 60 million euros by transfer market, and according to all reports, there is no intention for him to leave or to be sold by the club at the moment, then snagging him might prove a tall order. However, the prospect of working for Ange Postecoglou has seemed to work for other players who wouldn't necessarily want to join Tottenham, and with the prospect of potentially using Rodrigo Bentancur, his countryman, as the sales pitch, you never know. If we could get Manuel Ugarte, this guy would transform our midfield and would be a statement signing of intent. Next up will be someone that everyone is familiar with, Everton's midfield dynamo, AMADOU ONANA. Known for his physical presence, his stamina, and his work rate, this guy is a beast. With Premier League experience under his belt, and with Everton's possible relegation, but certainly financial struggles, this particular option might be far more likely to occur, and certainly he will not be short of suitors this summer if Everton are forced into a transaction. Onana's game is built on his physical dominance. Tall, strong, with an unbelievable work engine. This guy can cover ground. He is incredibly strong in the air and wins most of the battles that he participates in. Technically gifted with the ball at his feet, Onana is a player who is used to playing under pressure, such as the environment that he finds himself playing under in the tactics that are employed at Everton. A good passer of the ball, but his real strength is found in his defensive work, his ability to tackle, to win the ball back, to retain possession, and to get Everton out of trouble. If we're looking for someone who's capable at disrupting the attacks and the counter-attacks and who can sit deep and not do too much in the way of offensive creation and playmaking, then Onana might not be a bad option. However, despite his strengths, Onana's game is not without its flaws, and they come for me in the shape of consistency and concentration. He is not at his best all of the time, and that can be a frustration for Everton fans and for fans of the player in general. When he's on, he can be unplayable with his physical strengths and his ability to play under pressure and get out of trouble. It just doesn't happen consistently enough for me. Another consideration is that while he's good in basic distribution, if you're looking for someone that can progress the ball forward and to be a catalyst from the back, then perhaps he is not the guy. In terms of playmaking, in terms of getting the ball into the final third with key passes, there are better options out there, and we might be able to find them right now. Option number 3 for me, guys, is none other than Bayer Leverkusen's EXEQUIAL Palacios. This guy, believe it or not, had a transfer market valuation at the start of the season of only 14 million euros. Since then, it's almost quadrupled, and to try to price him away from Leverkusen right now would probably cost you a lot more than that. This guy was once forgotten and almost overlooked by Xabi Alonso at the start of his campaign at Leverkusen, but has re-emerged this season to become one of the most important, integral, and pivotal components of a system that has ended up overcoming Bayern Munich and will soon to be crowned reigning champions of the Bundesliga. Tasked with the unenviable responsibility of winning the ball back for the Leverkusen system, Palacios has thrived this year defensively, but his ability to utilize the ball when in possession is also something that hasn't gone unnoticed. He is in the top 2 or 3 percentile for everything that you could possibly want from a monster number 6 who also has the responsibility to catalyze attacks. He's in the top 2 or 3 percentile across Europe versus midfielders for tackles, for interceptions, for clearances, for take-ons, for dribbles, for passes, long, medium, and short, pass completion ratios, key passes into the final third. This guy, when he has the ball, is phenomenal with it, and when he doesn't have it, is a master of getting it back. His versatility will make him desirable to Ange Postecoglou, but asking him to do what we need in that 6 role, I don't think is a task too strong for EXEQUIAL Palacios. The Argentinian will be difficult to prize away from Leverkusen, but with the current crop of Argentinians that are at Tottenham, you never know. Maybe there is a chance that someone can get on the phone, someone can give him a call, someone can ask him, hey, how does a stint in North London sound? Because for me, this guy, if a viable option, would be incredible in the Premier League. If we're looking for weaknesses to call out, there aren't too many, but probably one thing we should note is he is a little bit injury prone. He also, like most players that are asked to do the sorts of things that he's asked to do, has discipline issues, lots of yellow cards, the occasional free kick conceded in a dangerous area, and a penalty or 2 has been conceded in the past. But overall, this guy has pace, he has mobility, he has an engine, stamina, concentration, footballing IQ, the ability to pass the ball wherever it needs to be passed, to win it back, and to take players on when necessary. This guy, for me, will be a dream signing. Staying on the same train of looking for players who have flown under the radar a little bit maybe, but whose stats this year have been incredible and The Y Scout tool has supported the evidence to suggest him a viable option. We're moving over to Benfica for number 4, and we're looking at Florentino, the prototypical midfielder with a blend of technical skill, physical competence, intelligence, and at 6 foot tall, despite being lean, a rock solid build that would match the requirements of the Premier League's physicality without a problem. Florentino is renowned for his robustness and his work ethic and engine. This guy can get around the park. He's fast, he's physical, and he gets to be where he needs to be when he needs to be there to dispossess offensive threats. He's a neutralizer. He gets the ball back. What does he do with the ball at his feet? Well, look, he's not going to carry the ball very successfully. He's not that type of player. He can work under pressure, but he's usually focused on getting the ball to someone who can do what they need to do with it further up the pitch. In terms of passes, this guy is in the top 98th percentile for progressive passes, for passes into the final third, for key passes, whether it's short, medium, or long. It gets from A to B without a problem. Is he going to take players on himself? Probably not. That's not what you're looking for in Florentino. He's going to sit in front of that back four and he's going to defend and protect and get across the pitch and then give the ball to someone to make use of. For me, a wonderful player. Considerations and concerns about whether he's ready to step up to the Premier League maybe are a little bit unfounded. However, the problem for me is he signed a new contract last season that had a £100 million release clause inserted into it. And so Benfica are going to have some wiggle room if they wanted to cash in on the player. But knowing Benfica as we do, they've sold over €1 billion worth of players over the last few years. And so they are always willing to move players on for the right price. Benfica will accept the right price, but will Daniel Levy pay it? For option 5, we're going across to Italy, to Serie A, to the often touted link to Tottenham in Atalanta's Brazilian midfielder, Ederson. This guy, believe it or not, when he started his career at Corinthians, struggled to fit any particular role in Brazilian midfield football. And that experience of chopping and changing and being asked to play in a variety of different styles has actually benefited the guy, as he's now since moved to Italy, to European football, and can do pretty much anything that's asked of him. When asked to sit in the 6 and protect, he can protect. When asked to be the box-to-box playmaker in the 8, this guy has no issue adapting to that position either, and he can chip in with goals when asked to get forward and participate in the playmaking in the final third. This guy is a player that when I first saw him, I wasn't a massive fan of. I didn't understand the hype. Having kept an eye on him, having looked at his stats and why scouted him to death, this guy, for me, is emerging week after week with more and more footage of convincing displays that tell me that he is the guy. He might very well be the perfect solution in an imperfect science to find the monster 6 that we're looking for. If we're looking for any kind of weaknesses, I'd say there is occasional inconsistency with his performance, occasional lapses in concentration, and occasional bad decision making. But when I say occasional, I'm talking very few and far between. Most of the time, he gets the ball where it needs to be. He makes the right choice between dribbling the ball out under pressure or releasing it into somebody else's path who can do more with it more quickly. He's a quick thinker. He has strong footballing IQ and a player that would surely adapt to the physical demands of the Premier League. For option 6, we're pivoting across to Ligue 1, and we're going to check out Lille's number 6/8 versatile midfielder, young up-and-coming talent, KEPHRAM THURAM. This guy is the son of Lilian Thuram. He's got football in his DNA, and it's clear to see with his understanding and his ability to read the game. So Thuram has a really commanding presence on the pitch. He's very big. He's very strong. He's tall. He's muscular, and he can win most physical duels, which isn't something that should go understated. Of course, there are consequences to that size, and that falls and looks a lot like someone who can't necessarily find a top speed that is as desirable as I would like to see, and surely as fast as other players that are in this list. However, his ability to read the game, his ability to utilize his footballing IQ to get into the right place, to intercept passes before the ball needs to get to where it has done, has often got himself out of trouble. He's very good with the ball at his feet. He can navigate through tight spaces with consummate ease. His passing range is getting better. It hasn't always been perfect. His stats are improving year over year as his experience grows in Ligue 1. And he's a player that will, for sure, at some point progress to a stronger team. He's certainly an asset, but I'm not entirely convinced this guy is ready just yet, Although I'm sure at some point in the not too distant future, this guy's name will be on everyone's lips when they're talking about top midfielders in world football. For option number 7, guys, we're turning our attention back to the Premier League, and we're looking at Gary O'Neill's Wolves team, and specifically Joao Gomez. Brazilian starlet has already won the attention of Junior from Brazil this season, made his debut for Brazil thanks to his unbelievably impressive work rate, his tenacious appetite for a tackle in the Premier League, and has really outshone many other defensive midfielders this year as Gary O'Neill's Wolves try to make that move up the table and become consistently a team that are competing for those European qualification spots. For me, Joao Gomez is a player that is clearly a defensively minded player. I think he's attempted more tackles and won more tackles than any other midfielder in the top 5 leagues in the last calendar year, and is a player who, is known for his relentless stamina, his work rate, his ability to just chase players across the park and pressurize and dispossess offensive threats. A really, really impressive player without the ball, getting the ball back and then handing it over to players in the Wolves team that can do more with it. Although Tottenham fans will remember and therefore shouldn't understate his abilities on the ball. He scored 2 goals against us at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium earlier this season, and his ability to drive forward, release the ball, and then get into that final third for potentially a goal-scoring opportunity is something that may have some people considering whether or not he is an out-and-out 6, or maybe he's more of a box-to-box in the future. Time will tell. This player is someone who will be around for a long time to come. A really, really impressive player in a very, very difficult position in the Premier League. For me, Wolverhampton Wanderers do have FFP and PSR issues, or at least that is what is talked about in the press. And Wolves are looking at maybe offlaying at least one of their key assets. Pedro Neto, the most likely candidate to leave this summer. But if his injury problems continue to flare up, then maybe it won't be as difficult to find value for money for Pedro Neto as it could be to find a really good bid for someone like Joao Gomez, who is valued at 28 million euros, according to Transfer Market. But given the complexity of the position and the amount of teams that are looking for players to fill that role in the Premier League, then both teams like Tottenham and Arsenal may be seen going head-to-head for a candidate like Joao Gomez this summer. I really like the player. I think he's someone that is emerging. There's players on this list that I probably fancy above him, just on experience and just on the kind of more well-roundedness of his game so far. But that doesn't in any way diminish how highly I rate Joao Gomez. I really do think he is a player that will be a really good asset for any team in the top 5 or 6 teams in the Premier League. We head to West London for option number 8, guys, to take a look at Fulham's João Palhinha, a player that probably needs no introduction and a short summary. This 28-year-old is a robust player with excellent ball-winning skills, a phenomenal ability to read the game, and has a great understanding of spatial awareness. His anticipation, his ability to stretch his long legs and break up play is second to none in the Premier League. And then with that, he offers Fulham the ability to very quickly turn defense into attack. On the ball, not so much. This guy isn't someone who overcomplicates things. He'd rather hand the ball over to one of his teammates and let them find that defense splitting pass or the through ball that can create opportunities. Very strong in the air, a fantastic tackler. And this guy is someone that keeps things simple. He's not a jack of all trades. He's a master of one. And that is that defensive midfield slot where his ability to protect the back four really, really is top drawer. Look, the problem for me is this guy was meant to go to Bayern Munich last summer. That deal fell apart on deadline day. That may re-emerge this year. And even if it doesn't, at 28 years old and with the price tag that he has and Fulham's ability possibly to get top money for him, it might be difficult to envision Daniel Levy seeing this guy as a player with sell-on value, and the overall consumption of the budget might be a little bit too much to see this one as entirely likely. However, if a deal can be struck, if there is the willingness to negotiate hard from Fulham's side as well, then João Palhinha surely would be a very good fit for Tottenham to be able to play in that defensive role. And as I say, keep things simple, but in terms of protecting the back four in transition, there really isn't too many better. If João Palhinha's move to Bayern Munich does rematerialize this summer, then the obvious next suggestion might be that there will be some changes to the roster of options in midfield that Bayern Munich currently have. And so for option 9, we're going to go across to Germany and talk about none other than Joshua Kimmich. This guy is known predominantly for playing as a deep-lying playmaker for Bayern Munich. And actually, the full gamut of capabilities that this guy has seen him play in a variety of different roles for the German Giants. He's played at right back, he's played at centre back, he's played as the DCM, and in fact, at times when really required to, he's moved further up the pitch and been more of a box-to-box midfielder as well. This guy is known for his intelligence. This guy is known for his unbelievable passing array, and his well-rounded versatility would be something surely that most teams in Europe, and Tottenham will be no exception, would look at with high desirability. He combines incredible passing accuracy, vision, intelligence, and an ability to control the tempo of the game with his mannerisms and his cleverness on the ball that really is second to none in European football. Defensively, Kimmich is tenacious in the tackle and has an unbelievable ability to read the game through his footballing IQ to be able to intercept and to make those key challenges where necessary to stop the ball from getting towards those back two. His ability to come deep into the playmaker role allows Fulham's fullbacks to get forward. And so in terms of strategic alignment, there is a lot of overlap between what Tottenham are trying to achieve and what Bayern Munich are used to playing. In terms of weaknesses, well, look, if I'm going to call out a couple, it might be one is that his physicality or lack thereof sometimes is overcompensated for with an aggression that can overstep the mark. But apart from that, maybe the only other thing that needs to be called out is that his personality has sometimes been described as difficult to get along with. And given that Ange Postecoglou has gone out of his way in interviews to talk about the fact that he likes people whose character, or he places a player's character at the very highest echelons of the priority list, then maybe there might be a bit of a conflict there, maybe a little bit of a butting of heads. However, I personally would say that as Tottenham need to move from the position we're in to the place where we're trying to qualify for title charges and for trophy successes, then I don't think necessarily it's too much of a bad thing to be considering players who have personalities, who demand more, who demand excellence from themselves and from those around them, even if that may be considered and interpreted as being difficult to get along with. This guy is a winner, and he has excellence at the very highest levels of his list of priorities. And so I'm not entirely sure if it's necessarily a bad thing, but it is worth calling out. If he's available this summer, and it's a big if, then I think that Tottenham could do a lot worse than to move for a player of his caliber. It's a statement signing, a player that surely won't be short of suitors across the Premier League and European football if his time at Bayern Munich is coming to an end. And I would love to see him in a Tottenham shirt for the 24-25 season. For the last option, guys, look, again, I could have chosen any number of 20 other players here for this last spot, but I thought I'd go with a new up-and-coming player that you may or may not have heard of, and that is Dutch Feyenoord midfielder Mats Weiffer. This guy surely has come across Tottenham's radar when Tottenham have been following and keeping a close tab on his teammate, number 9 for Feyenoord, Santiago Jimenez. This guy's stats are up there with the best in Europe. He really does look like a player who is beyond his years in terms of experience, an incredible passer of the ball with wonderful vision, touted as having incredible footballing IQ, and someone who hasn't really figured out yet where his best spot is, whether he's a defensive midfielder, a deep-lying playmaker similar to Josh Kimmich, whether he's more of a box-to-box or someone that plays a little bit more advanced. His passing stats are phenomenal. His vision is second to none. And again, someone with an intelligence that is surely going to benefit him when he does move out of a league that is difficult to predict how well he will do in that step up and transition. For me, this guy looks like a player who will be one of the best in Europe over the coming years, although it's still very early. But if you are going to pick weaknesses in his game that's already obvious, then he needs to work on his physicality, a bit like some of the other players mentioned today. The transition to the Premier League and the more kind of aggressive nature of it and the fast pace may be a little bit of a leap too soon at the moment, but surely someone that will be at the very best within a few years. And at Tottenham, maybe Daniel Levy looks at that and thinks that is someone where there's an asset that will be appreciating in value and someone that can offer a lot of versatility and utility to Daniel Levy, to Ange Postecoglou over the next couple of seasons. Time will tell how he gets on in his development. Like I say, it might be a little bit too soon for Max Weeper to move to the Premier League, but he is a player that statistically you can't ignore. And when you do watch him for Feyenoord, his ability to control the tempo of the game is very impressive for someone of his age. And his ability to find the passes, long, medium, and short, is really, really, really impressive. I like the guy, and I wouldn't hate the fact if he was to be the selection, but I do think there's players that are more of a ready now, here now, better fit at the moment we've already mentioned on this list. As I said, guys, the stats that you've seen on the screen, look, they are just stats. They don't bake in all of the context of who the team are playing for, who they played against, in what division, what league, and, you know, whether or not those players were at their very best against the very best in those games or against the very worst. So the stats don't always bake in the context. That's why we've looked at the Y-Scout tool and taken as much video footage and visual approach to this assessment as well. But within that 10, there's a player in there that I think that Tottenham would be able to convince to come to Tottenham, that wouldn't absorb all of the budget that we need for other places as well, and that will be able to fill in the gaps and help us out in that crucial number 6 role. But let me know your thoughts. If you think there's a player that I've overlooked, forgotten to bring into my list, or a player that you think on here is better than the others or a better fit than the others, then please drop your comments below. The number 6 is crucial. How we go about it is up to Ange Postecoglou, it's up to Daniel Levy, it's up to the guys in the scouting department. But I believe that one of those 10 listed here today will be the difference between Tottenham conceding as many goals as we have and conceding a number that is a bit more reflective of a team that wants to go on to Premier League title ambitions next season. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.